extraordinary event. I am Karen Peltz Strauss. I am the Deputy Bureau Chief of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs Bureau here at the Federal Communications Commission. And I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you all here. This is an absolutely amazing convening of approximately 365 people, or maybe even more, from at least 30 countries. We welcome you all here for this M-enabling event. We look forward to 2 to 3 days, for those of you who are staying for the broadband event, of excellent sharing of ideas and discussions, and we hope that all of you have a very productive meeting.
From the disability rights movement, which is nothing about us without us. Meaning that when you're making decisions that pertain to people with disabilities, you need to have people with disabilities involved. The other part of my job is that I go to disability organizations representing industry saying nothing about us without us. And it's nice to be here today where I can say the same thing across the board. The critical part of making advanced communications accessible is really the understanding that advanced communications is an ecosystem, whether it's looking at internet-based services or more traditional services. You need to have that open communications. When you're looking at a global world, you also have to look at harmonization, because part of that communication is having systems that can interact with each other. These things do not happen accidentally. Organizations invest a great deal of time and expertise in making this happen. Industries, government agencies need to all work together to look at the harmonization of standards to make sure that when we are developing systems moving forward, that they are accessible. The real breakthrough for the CVAA is saying that we're not going to design to something that's past and old, because we know that that won't work in the technology of today, which is moving so quickly forward. And the systems that we develop internally to address these, whether it's a disability organization, whether it's a company, whether manufacturer or service provider, whether it's a regulator, we all need to make sure that what we're doing is allowing for enough innovation to move forward, while at the same time making sure that the needs of the individuals we're designing for are being addressed. It's very basic, but it's very difficult. The successes that at&t has had, and I'll talk from that perspective because that's my experience, has really come from our at&t advisory panel on access and aging, which includes some of the folks here, but a lot of other folks who help us determine what our direction needs to be, whether we're on course or whether we need to change our course slightly, and what are critical to our customer base of people with disabilities. While the singular population of blind people or people who are deaf, and those markets may not necessarily be a driver in all cases, the reality is people with disabilities are throughout our societies. People are aging throughout our societies, and there are deaf engineers and there are deaf poets. There are blind computer programmers and there are blind literature professors. You have people throughout life stages, and they're everywhere. So companies can and should make the opportunity to look at including technologies that are accessible throughout life stages and throughout differences. And that doesn't mean that you make a product that is not accessible. One of our best success stories really has to do with looking at the aging population. We developed a phone with one of our vendor partners. It was one designed to meet the needs of people who are aging, decreased vision, decreased hearing, the need for things that are not just graphics or icons, but text-based, things along those lines. We talked to people who were older to find out what they needed. When we offered the product, it then became one of Oprah Winfrey's top 10 gifts under $100. Not for people who are aging, not for people with mild hearing loss or vision loss, but for the whole population. So if you have the attitude of universal design or design for all, you can make products and services that are accessible, you can make things that are forward-thinking, and still address the needs of the vast majority of people with disabilities. Now, in some cases, there are specialized needs, and that's where a global market becomes absolutely wonderful. We at at&t were able to work with a Code Factory, which is a company in Spain. They are experts in user interface for people who are blind. And we were able to offer our customers in the United States access to basically all our Android, our blind customers in the United States, access to all our Android platform products because of that partnership. So again, it's that communication, the outreach, and the bridging that is so critical. So I would say if you go away from this conference today, dedicate yourself toward access regardless of where you come from, and keep in mind that when you're making decisions, it should be nothing without us, nothing about us without us. Thanks.
In the next 2 years, many of those jobs, as many as 50%, will be at-home jobs, where all that's necessary is a computer and a broadband connection. It may be the single largest jobs initiative for people with disabilities that we've ever seen, but of course technology enables this. Seniors too can participate in online commerce or engage in civic dialogue. I was in Cleveland, Ohio last year at a center to help seniors learn about new technologies. And I met, just walking through that center was amazing. The first senior I met showed me how she had learned to send photos back and forth with her grandchildren in South Carolina, far away. The next senior I met told me that she was able to find and land a job. She still wanted to work because she had learned basic digital skills and had access to listings. And the third senior I met was showing me the ways she was able to get information online about health issues, including her diabetes. Mobile broadband also enables remote medical monitoring. Wireless devices can help diabetes patients track their glucose levels, or heart disease patients monitor cardiovascular data. I was in Seattle, in the state of Washington in the U.S., where I met parents and a child where the child's life was saved because he had had access to remote monitoring technology that alerted emergency personnel when something went wrong with his heart. He had a heart condition, if he waited till the actual visible physical symptoms, it would have been too late. I mentioned finding a job. Broadband presents such an opportunity for that. In the U.S. now, more than 80% of our largest companies, Fortune 500 companies, post their job openings online only and require online applications. And those statistics are different in different parts of the world, but the trend is clear. And by anticipating these trends around the world, we can make a real difference in enabling everyone to have a full opportunity to find and land the jobs that are available. Seniors and people with disabilities disproportionately find themselves on the wrong side of the digital divide, excluded from the $8 trillion global internet economy and all of its benefits. In the 21st century, having millions sitting on the sidelines of society because they're offline is as unthinkable as leaving people without electricity in the 20th century. That's why here at the FCC, we've made our highest priority ensuring that every American has access to broadband, fixed and mobile. In the last few weeks, the FCC approved a once-in-a-generation overhaul of our multi-billion-dollar universal service fund, modernizing it finally from the telephone era to the internet era. These reforms will drive broadband build-out, wired and wireless, to the millions of unserved homes, businesses, and community anchor institutions in rural America. And I think it's certainly a model to pay attention to for the rest of the world, and we are available to help in this important matter. The new Connect America Fund and the new Mobility Fund will put our nation on the path to universal broadband access, closing our deployment gap and helping close the broadband adoption gap. But even with those reforms, we still have way too many Americans who aren't getting the benefits of broadband, even though they could connect at home. In the months ahead, we'll continue reform and modernization of our Lifeline program, which helps low-income families get and stay connected to basic communication service. We've modernized our E-rate program, which is our program that helps schools and libraries in the United States get access to the internet. It's a good program, a very good program, a very successful one that we've had in place in the U.S. since the 1990s. But like so many programs, it needed to be modernized to address the challenges that schools and teachers and libraries face today. We adopted important reforms of that program last year, giving a spark to wonderful opportunities like digital textbooks. There's no reason this thing shouldn't be a textbook, although when I pick it up, I turn it off apparently. The FCC recently worked with the private sector, not only on the Jobs for America teleservices initiative that I mentioned, but also on a new broadband adoption initiative called Connect to Compete. So every cable company in the United States has committed to offering a $10 a month low-cost broadband service to families who have children on school lunch, low-income families in the United States. Other companies like Microsoft and Best Buy have made significant commitments to help on the digital literacy issue. We know that there are multiple causes for the broadband adoption gap. Cost is one, but so is relevance, people not appreciating the value of broadband. Another is digital literacy, people who just don't know how to use a computer, search, upload applications, photos, etc. All of these issues matter a great deal to people with disabilities and seniors. I'm sure you've already spoken this morning about the CVAA, which we passed in the United States, a historic piece of legislation which contains a number of requirements to ensure that wireless phones are accessible to people who use hearing aids and implants. Over the past year and a half, we've held a summit on ways to ensure that mobile devices are accessible to people who are blind, visually impaired, or deafblind, and have requested comments on how we can make sure that individuals who use wireless devices are able to access wireless phones in the 21st century. Just last month, we released proposed rules to update the technical standards for wireless hearing aid compatibility. The new standards will allow hearing aid compatibility requirements to be extended to a range of new technologies and will allow for more accurate measurement of hearing aid interference. Just as important, as part of our national broadband plan last year, I'm glad we were able to establish the Accessibility and Innovation Initiative to address gaps between cutting-edge technologies and accessibility by bringing stakeholders, such as all of you, together to discuss how to increase accessibility in products, services, and software. This is a big opportunity in this space because historically we've gone through these cycles that have been frustrating for everyone involved. A new technology comes on the market, becomes a very accepted common technology, and then people realize, oh, people with disabilities don't have access to the technology. There's understandable, real, material frustration on the part of people with disabilities. And then for the companies, the challenge of retrofitting at that point becomes an expensive challenge. What we are looking to do now in the United States with the law that Congress passed and the President signed last year, with our work here at the agency, is to work with the private sector to address accessibility issues early in the product development cycle, reducing the cost, making it a win-win for everyone. And I think we're seeing progress toward that. It does require these kinds of gatherings and ongoing focus. So are we there yet? No. But we are on our way. The new technologies, the devices, the software create enormous and amazing new opportunities. We, of course, realize that as we move forward, every day we learn from initiatives going on in other countries. We will all make the best progress together if these are two-way dialogues. There is no reason that any country, including the United States, should have to reinvent the wheel. So this international conference is a tremendous opportunity to meet these profoundly important objectives for all of you from all of the different sectors involved in these issues to meet, collaborate with your colleagues and partners around the world, and to keep our collective aim on increasing the amount of products that are accessible to every individual, no matter where they live or work or learn. I'm pleased that the work will continue past this conference. In fact, the FCC will pick up these issues again on Wednesday of this week, when along with The G3 ICT and the W2I will host an international inquiry on broadband and persons with disabilities. The goal of Wednesday's event is to create a roadmap for international broadband plan for people with disabilities. The working groups will start by identifying issues associated with broadband deployment and adoption barriers, needed research, challenges and incentives for broadband and people with disabilities. So thank you all again, the panelists, the participants, for taking the time to be here, to work together in the spirit that we all share over the next several days. You're going to invest real time and energies into a goal that couldn't be more worthy, identifying the best ways to achieve broad accessibility of communications technologies. I applaud your work, and I wish you well and a productive few days. Thank you.
Okay, I'm here with Susan Mazrui. Hi, Susan, how are you?
Hi, fine. Things are
I'm
going
here
very
is
well.
with the at&t booth at the M-Enabling event, which Susan actually informed me about initially. Thank you very much, because I am learning a tremendous amount of information about all the people that here in this room that care about disabled and seniors. And tell us about your involvement with those organizations. And I've heard you speak, and a lot of good stuff coming from at&t.
Well, we've been very fortunate to be able to work with G3 ICT, which is an international organization that looks at accessibility for people with disabilities. And we've been very, very fortunate because they are leaders in bringing people together. So whether you're working like at&t is on accessibility for people who are blind or have a hearing loss, or you're an application manufacturer like Code Factory, or a developer, or you're a handset provider, it's an opportunity for all these different organizations, all part of the ecosystem, to work together to look at solutions, to harness the innovation that's out there today, to make sure that people with disabilities and seniors can take full advantage of what mobile technologies can offer.
Now, this started off today, and we're going to use you as the thread between all the stuff that I've been recording today. We started off at FCC. Why the FCC?
Well, the Federal Communications Commission has taken it onto itself to make efforts to make sure that technologies are accessible. Part of it is the Communications and Video Accessibility Act and requirements around that, but a lot of it has to do with the leadership and the understanding that all people need to be included when you're looking at technology, communications in particular, because communications are so essential for all parts of our lives, whether it's work or education, whether it's play, whether it's civic engagement. You need to have access to communications today, and they've taken on a leadership role in ensuring that accessibility is there from the design stage and from the regulations as well. And they've also taken the leadership and look at how we're doing it in the United States, how it's being done elsewhere, and learning the best practices throughout the world.
There has been a large emphasis on international, what the world is doing. I mean, we just left Egypt, Europe, and Japan, and some of the disaster opportunities of using mobile to help, and maybe even help save lives.
Yes, I think it's critical, and I think the issues, the human issues, are the same. You need to have access to emergency information. It doesn't matter whether you're in Egypt or Japan or the United States. The techniques that they're used in different places can be best practices, and we can learn from the mistakes that are done here or elsewhere. We can improve upon those things, and we can, more than that, adopt what is working. And so by working together, this is all a new field internationally, but the processes and practices we use can be adapted culturally to the environment that we're in. But often the underlying technology is what needs to be harmonized, the standards need to be put in place, and the efforts that are done voluntarily in many cases by industry can be used to change the world in many ways for people with disabilities and those who are aging.
You know what I find very wonderful is that you're that type of a person. I know that in the sense of it's not competitive, it's collaborative. And do you think it's because of what we're speaking about, disabilities and seniors, that this is not the time to be talking business exclusive talk? This is a time to help.
Well, I think it's part of being part of a giant global neighborhood. Everybody has someone in their family who has a disability. They know of a neighbor. We all are aging. We're taking care of our parents, our grandparents, or we're taking care of our grandchildren. And so by looking at these things, we know that it's so critical, and that if we work together, we can help change society, help change how people are included, and in the long run, help ourselves. So I think it's not something that's unique to a specific company. It's not unique to a specific country, but it is something that we all share as part of that global family.
Now, your director, I believe, of your area, he shared a lot of good things that you guys are doing. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, we've taken our approach to try to look at design through the delivery stages, the whole ecosystem of accessibility. So we look at how we develop products, we look at how we employ people with disabilities and seniors, how we engage the community to understand priorities, and we work it all together to try to make ourselves a better company, a more welcoming place for employees, and to develop products and services that are better for people throughout life stages.
Now, he shared also some staggering statistics, and from the size of the senior community to the size of the disabled community. We're talking, and to a certain degree, I think he said 2050, maybe 50% of population in certain places.
Well, we know as populations age, the incident of disability increases. And so we're going to have more people with disabling conditions as they get older, and that's happening in the world today. But when you look at the disability market today, there are more people with disabilities in the world than there are in the total population of China. That's staggering. But when you think about it, and you think about it in personal terms, it's not so surprising. It's all part of our community, it's all part of our businesses, it's part of our neighborhoods. I mean, it's just the way the world is. And right now it's growing a little faster than we have younger people. And as people get older, we want them to stay at home. We want to have job opportunities. A lot of the people are supporting their families for a much longer period of time. We want to keep the expertise in our businesses. And by providing products and services that are accessible, that are easy to use, that address the needs, if you're having difficulty seeing a little bit or hearing a little bit, as we all do as we age, then why not develop products and services that meet the needs of our customers?
There was one gentleman from South Africa. This is such a diverse group. I think they mentioned 30 countries here. So he had some slide that, within the disability ranks, he had mental disabilities. I think everybody raised their hand.
Yes, I think so. Well, I think that cognitive disabilities, a lot of what you do to make things accessible or usable by people with cognitive disabilities really help us develop better products, because you're simplifying the user interface and making it easier for people to engage. And then you could go on different levels. So you could start out as like the training wheels of technology, and that can meet one population, and then people get more used to it. They get excited about it, and maybe they go a little bit more advanced. And we've taken that approach. We offer at&t Mobile Accessibility Lite. It's a suite of applications that get you used to it and more comfortable. And some people will stay there and say, all I want to do is text and make phone calls and web browse. And other people will use this as a vehicle to get used to the device and look at other types of access that are available through a variety of different sources. So it can be a great introduction.
The good news for disabilities and seniors is what?
I think that the fact that we are looking at it as an inclusive approach, we're looking at providing technology as part of serving our civil societies and as just being business as usual. And I think as long as we have an inclusive business practice, it's good news.
Okay, thank you very much.